in the 16th and 17th chapters. And Ahithophel said to Absalom, "Go in unto thy father's concubines, which he hath left to keep the house. And all Israel shall hear that thou art abhorred of thy father. Then shall the hands of all that are with thee be strong." And so they spread Absalom a tent upon the top of the house. And Absalom went in unto his father's concubines in the sight of all Israel. And the counsel of Ahithophel, which he counseled in those days, was as if a man had inquired at the mouth of God. So was all the counsel of Ahithophel, both with David and with Absalom. Moreover, Ahithophel said to Absalom, "Let me now choose out 12,000 men. I will arise and pursue after David this night. And I will come upon him while he is weary and weak-handed, and will make him afraid, and all the people that are with him. And I will smite the king only, and I will bring back all of the people unto thee." And the saying pleased Absalom well, and all the elders of Israel. Today we shall have no proper sermon theme, no special treatment of any one topic in the text, and no setting of any spiritual delicacies upon your dish. Today let's just hear the story. And as you cannot always draw the line from the text to your own heart, at least look for this much: the invisible hand of Almighty God in human history. The unseen ruler who still holds sway among the raving and ranting of men. 5 years now, Absalom had been in exile, unpunished but also unforgiven. And that was a long time to make that young, proud spirit brood. Already he was something of a folk hero in the eyes of the people. The story circulated how Absalom had avenged his poor ravished sister, how Absalom had named his own little girl, his only daughter, after that dishonored girl, how Absalom had paid off in spades the crown prince who had done that to the girl, how Absalom, when the pompous political powers in the big city would give him no hearing, how he burned down the barley fields of the high and mighty General Job and dared him to do anything about it. And the little people just loved to hear that. And on top of all of this, Absalom had an incredible manly beauty about him. He was far and away the finest looking man in all the land, and that helps. And whatever else his enemies might say about him, Absalom was every inch a prince. Daring and brave and warm-hearted and true to those whom he loved. And when he finally at long last was permitted to return, it was quite a sight to see in the city streets. Chariot and team and 50 outrunners before him. And if anybody thought that was just showing off of the idle rich, never before had a prince paid such interest in the lives of the little people. Day by day and early in the morning, you could find him at the gate where the wronged and the injured had come for justice and judgment. He listened to the stories those people told. He sympathized with them and treated them as equals. And he answered their agonized plea, "See, thy matters are right and just, but there is no officer of the king to hear thee. Oh, that I were judge in the land, then I would do right by a man. You can't tell, or at least I can't, from the text, whether these people were merely malcontents, whether they were telling the truth about the injustice, whether Absalom was just sympathizing with them for his own advantage. But one thing is sure, nothing wears down and wearies a people like injustice, or justice delayed. Justice deferred is no justice at all. Here you can see this acted out in your own country. Look at the legal snarl. Insurance now with no-fault clauses because we can't clear the courts. Poor people, many times untried people, spending months in jail without coming up for trial. Settlements lasting for years before one red cent is paid. And how would any of you men who have a family and a job like to have spent more than 9 months now separated on that Charles Manson jury? This gets to people after a while. And it is no surprise to read here that Absalom stole the hearts of the men of Israel. He took his time, wanted the seed now spread to take root and grow. And you wonder about David all the while. Didn't he see any of this? Or didn't he want to see any of it? The conspiracy was carefully planned. But it's the outreach and scope of it that staggers you. The remotest region in all of Israel was in on it. Ahithophel, David's trusted counselor in his own cabinet, helped plan it. The uprising was to take place in Hebron for a lot of reasons. But that city would stir ancient memories in the hearts of a lot of people. And on the pretext of going there to pay a religious vow, Absalom received permission to take with him 200 unsuspecting government officials. And arrived in Hebron, they threw the mask off. And as quickly as the trumpets could signal it from hilltop to hilltop, the revolution reached staggering and tremendous proportions. And just as quickly word was received in Jerusalem. At once David determined to leave the city, that he would not be trapped within its walls, that there be no slaughter in the streets. And once again, in that moment of danger, David was his old self once more. Gone now was the disinterest, the half-hearted measures, and that old courage and conviction came back to him. But above all that, acknowledging of his need of Almighty God. Watch how he turns to God here humbly every single step of the way. There follows now a picturesque portrayal of the King of Israel leaving the city. The streets are lined with mourners weeping to see him go. Barefoot, head covered, robbed of his royalty, stripped of any pride. Hardly a man now to help him, but the God about whom he had once sung. It's almost a prophecy to see the Lord's anointed betrayed by a friend, cursed by his enemies, driven out of his own city, across the brook Kidron to the Mount of Olives. Story of Jesus Christ, believed on by some whom you would least expect it of. Watch now as the snapshots, like in a photo album, the faces begin to appear to David one after another. As he wends his way, he takes with him, of course, his immediate family, wives and children, who would certainly be killed under a new government. And also with him, you almost expect it, the 600 who had been with him from the very beginning. The old guard who had never fought beside anybody else, and they wouldn't do it now either. And as David reaches the bottom of the hill, the last crossroads on the outskirts of the city, he pauses to review his retinue. And first there comes to him there a stranger, oddly, Ittai, a Philistine warrior with his soldiers. And if you want to know why David's fighting men were loyal to the man to the death, read once the exchange of words between those two soldiers. Odd, isn't it, that a stranger should see in David and David's God what his own people refused to see. Reminds you of the many Roman centurions who saw in Jesus what his own people refused to see. And then came, unasked and unbidden, the two priests, Zadok and Abiathar, carrying with them the ark of the Lord. Go back with it, David commanded them. If at all I shall find favor with the Lord, may he graciously let me see once again his sanctuary in the city. And David, like any man of God whose heart is with the Lord, but his feet are on this earth, a man who must be wise as serpents, yet innocent as doves, David tells the priest to spy for him. I don't know if that offends you. And then, just as David reached the Mount of Olives, where the traitor Judas first revealed himself openly, word reaches David that his own trusted advisor, Ahithophel, has betrayed him and gone over to the enemy. You see, the only ace card that David held was the inexperience of Absalom. And now Ahithophel would give him that. Ahithophel, that wise man whose words in Israel were looked upon as the very words of God. But at that very moment, probably the hardest blow of all so far, who should come once more but old Hushai? He was an old man when David first went to war. His clothes rent, ashes on his head, and his old sword clanging again at his side. Old friend, dear friend, you can't fight with us, David told him. You can't keep up with these guys anymore. Go on back to the city. Join the conspiracy. Win the confidence of Absalom. Counteract that deadly counsel of Ahithophel. And do you know, that old man will do more for David than the bravest of them will do for him on the battlefield. What fools we would be. We were to rinse our aged people out of our hair and out of our lives. Two more, strangely both of them connected with the house of Saul. Ziba, King Saul's steward, in charge now of all of King Saul's former property, charged only with taking care of the crippled, club-footed son of Jonathan. And he comes to David now with a token of help, and he tells such a wild story about Mephibosheth, I can't figure out how David could swallow anything like that. But David, is just, with a breath of suspicion, hands the whole works over to Ziba. You take all of Saul's property for your own. And as David and his people wended their way up one side of the mountain, across the valley in between, on the slopes of another, followed a strange sight. A man, Shimei, throwing dirt, cast casting stones and cursing David, "Thou bloody man, get out! Thou bloody man, God has brought mischief upon your head in punishment." Like Simon Peter in the Garden of Gethsemane, who wanted to swing the sword, Abishai says to David, "Let me go over and cut that dog's head off." Never more than right now does David realize that maybe there's a kernel of truth in what he says, that his deep humiliation at the moment, overnight his kingdom brought to nothing, is the hand of the Lord. And he has nothing now but to throw himself upon his merciful arm. Let him alone. No sooner was David out of sight than the forces of Absalom entered the city from the other side. And the first one to meet young Absalom at the headquarters, of course, was old Hushai. And arrogantly and haughtily, Absalom made fun of David's trusted advisor. But that old statesman, you know how to use flattery and arrogant vanity. And he would use it well before the day was over. Now Absalom so far had the whole works without one sword stroke. Absalom was head of a government, but unorganized. Head of a large army, but undisciplined. And there was one man who saw it all, Ahithophel. Now he's going to give some very brilliant counsel. Satanic, but brilliant, just the same. Ahithophel knows that, first of all, they've got to burn the bridges behind them, so that there will be no turning back, that there will be an irreconcilable breach between David and Absalom. Public and permanent. And Ahithophel advises his son to go into the 10 wives of his father, spread the blankets on the roof, under the full sun and in the sight of all of Israel. And that unnatural crime, of course, brings to our mind the prophecy that the prophet Nathan had once predicted upon David. And that Absalom did. But Absalom was not so sure about going out into the dark and fighting his father. Second piece of advice Ahithophel gave was, let me right now take a force of 12,000, pursue after David immediately, come upon him unorganized, weary, dispirited. Let me kill just one man, and the old establishment will be over. And it didn't sound bad, but Absalom wanted the advice of one more. So he asked Hushai, who just happened to be in the hallway, to come in and give his... Now you've got to picture this. Old, gnarled, scarred veteran who's experienced more in his life than most of the young guys in that room had ever heard about. Now listen to him tell how the advice of Ahithophel is good. He said, but not right now. You see, Absalom, your father and those men with him are fighting men. You can't remember it, boy, but I do the day that David went down to meet Goliath. You should have seen it. And I can still see General Joab leading his men to the heights of Jebus. And Abishai drove the Ammonites from the... Those men are killers. They're war lovers. Your father and those soldiers. And you've got to know, Absalom, they're angry. They are chafed raw in their mind, like a she-bear robbed of her whelps. Don't you think you're going to surprise them in the dark. They're going to be waiting for you out there in the black. And the first one of your raw recruits that they cut down, and they will, gonna cause panic in your army. The rumor will spread and you will retreat and they will have won the day. Absalom, my goodness, wait. Why don't you wait till all of Israel from Dan unto Beersheba gathers to your banner, so that your force numbers the sand on the seashore? And then don't let Ahithophel, you do it. You lead the army. And you will fall upon the meager force of David as the dew does upon the ground. And if he and his men should run and hide in some city, why, there will be so many of us. We need only tie ropes onto the walls and drag the whole thing lock, stock, and barrel down into the river. He throws a glittering mantle over an argument full of holes. But he does it dramatically, with a flourish, and with a bow he leaves the room, as though the last word had been spoken. Outside, a girl with a water pitcher is waiting to carry word to two men outside the city walls at the fountain, who will carry the message to David at the fords of Jordan. But there was one man who saw it all clearly. Ahithophel knew it now as if he had seen it happen. They just cut their own throats. It was all over. They gave David time to get away. Immediately he left the room, went to his home, quietly put his affairs in order, and hanged himself. As did Judas, another trusted friend, went out and hanged himself. Amen.